Hi, my name is AJ Richter. I'm a technical analyst at TechGDPR, where I supported the development of our Data Protection Impact Assessment Template, or DPIA template, specifically designed for blockchain and other decentralized technologies. You can request this DPIA template directly from our website to be received via email as a PDF or editable Word document. Our template is designed to make DPIAs practical and approachable. Under the General Data Protection Regulation, or the GDPR, a DPIA is required when processing personal data in ways that may pose high risks to individuals' rights and freedoms. Beyond compliance, a DPIA is a key tool for demonstrating credibility, accountability, and privacy by design. It provides a structured way to identify, assess, and reduce privacy risks when processing personal data. The GDPR defines personal data very broadly. It includes any information relating to an identified or identifiable natural person. This means that even indirect identifiers, such as IP addresses, device IDs, or other online identifiers, may qualify as personal data. A DPIA evaluates how personal data is collected, stored, and processed, identifies potential risks to individuals, and recommends measures to mitigate those risks. Importantly, the GDPR does not apply only to organizations based in the European Union. Any organization that processes personal data of EU residents must comply regardless of where it is located. Failure to do so can result in significant penalties and reputational harm. Blockchain and other decentralized technologies introduce additional complexity. Data is often shared across multiple participants and may be difficult or even impossible to modify or delete. Conducting a DPIA helps organizations map data flows, assess risks, clarify access rights, and implement safeguards to protect individuals' privacy. It also helps demonstrate accountability to regulators and users. Our DPIA template guides organizations through documenting, processing operations, categorizing personal data, defining roles and responsibilities, and assessing the legal basis for processing. It includes structured risk assessment tables, as well as guidance on technical safeguards such as encryption, access controls, and data retention, alongside organizational measures like monitoring and governance. If we take a closer look at the template itself, it begins with a table of contents. As shown, there are several large sections in this template. The first is an introduction and overview of the DPIA itself. From there are 6 core body sections and a final conclusion for a total of 8 sections and 2 additional appendices. Right from the start, the template emphasizes a systematic assessment rather than a checklist approach. You'll also notice color-coded guidance throughout the document. Text highlighted in red contains instructions or guidance that should be followed while completing the template and removed once the section is finalized. Text highlighted in yellow provides examples intended to clarify what is expected in each section. Any examples that are not relevant should be deleted, and if an example is retained, it should be adapted and rewritten to fit your specific use case. As aforementioned, the first is an introduction and overview of the DPIA. This is a prime example of where there is instructions written in red, and yellow is potential examples that could be relevant to your use case. Now this continues throughout the main sections. Section 2 is a systematic description of processing operations. This section helps organizations clearly document the purpose of processing, map data flows and system architecture, categorize personal data, identify data subjects where applicable, and describe the blockchain network and infrastructure. It covers roles and responsibilities, third-party recipients, international data transfers, storage and retention periods, and other relevant processing details. The goal is to present a complete and transparent picture of how the data is handled. The subsections considered in this section are as follows: purposes of processing, data flow and architecture, categories of personal data, data subjects, blockchain network and infrastructure, roles and responsibilities, recipients and third parties, international data transfers, storage and data retention, and additional processing details. Section 3 is for legal basis and necessity and proportionality assessment. Here, organizations assess whether their processing activities have a valid legal basis under the GDPR, whether the data collected is necessary for the stated purpose, and whether the scope of the processing is proportionate. The subsections considered in this section are as follows. Lawful basis for processing, in which we give you the examples of what it could be, and then you have to go through and identify for processing activities. Necessity and proportionality, lawfulness summary, and then the next section is a detailed risk analysis and impact assessment. This section guides you through identifying risks to personal data, evaluating their likelihood and severity, and determining overall risk levels. Risks are assessed in a consistent and structured way with examples of risk scenarios, likelihood and severity ratings, and guidance on appropriate mitigation measures. The subsections considered in this section are as follows. First, you need to determine what methodology you would like to use for the risk assessment. We give a few, but there are others that could be considered if you choose to do so. And then we have the identify potential risks. Again, in yellow is examples. These might not pertain, but they are likely to pertain for blockchain. And then we categorize these as different ones. And then we have a risk assessment table, in which we give some examples of what would be a risk, the likelihood, impact severity, initial risk levels, mitigating measures, and residual risk. Now, these will likely have to be changed. Maybe they can be included if they are relevant to your application, but keep in mind that yellow is indeed just an example, and it's helpful to determine for yourself what is applicable. In section 5 in this template, we address technical and organizational safeguards. This includes examples of technical measures, such as encryption and security controls, and organizational measures, such as policies, procedures, and governance structures. Data protection by design and by default is strongly emphasized throughout this section. The subsections considered in this section are as follows. Data protection by design and default measures. Again, examples, and they can be embellished or removed entirely. But then these are common also, for instance, privacy enhancing technologies that are used, which might be applicable to your use case. Security measures for integrity, confidentiality, and availability. Organizational and process measures. And then mapping measures to risks. It is useful to combine section 5 and section 4. More information to be read here in the guidance. Section 6 focuses on data subject rights. This includes providing transparent information and handling requests for access, rectification, erasure, restriction, objection, data portability, and automated decision making. The template ensures that clear, well-documented procedures are in place, which is essential for GDPR transparency and compliance. The subsections considered in this section correspond to articles in the GDPR and are as follows. Transparent information, which corresponds to right to be informed. Right of access and data portability. Listed here are the associated articles in the GDPR. Right to rectification, right to erasure, also known as the right to be forgotten. Right to restriction of processing, right to object, right to data portability, automated decision making and profiling, and information about how data subject requests are handled, communication and user support, Section 7 details governance and accountability mechanisms. This section helps define internal rules and establish consortium governance where relevant, maintain documentation, cooperate with regulators, and continuously monitor and improve privacy measures. The subsections considered in this section are recapitulating roles and responsibilities, such as the DPO, consortium or platform governance, if applicable. If not, feel free to remove this section. Internal accountability measures. Again, example, and then this is guidance. If the example is not relevant, remove the entire row. Regulatory cooperation, documentation and demonstrability, monitoring and continuous improvement. And finally, we have reached the conclusion. The template concludes with a summary of residual risks, a decision by the controller, an action plan, and procedures for communication, review, and revision of the DPIA. It also includes a final sign-off section, typically involving the Data Protection Officer, also known as a DPO, and a checklist to verify that all required steps have been completed and properly documented. Feel free to put the relevant positions and names of the people who need to sign off on this, as well as changing the action plan as needed. There's also an appendix to help you ensure that all the steps have been completed and documented in DPIA. It's basically just a final verification and easy reference for compliance officers or auditors. These are all the sections that are relevant for a DPIA. And lastly is just references. Ultimately, a DPIA is more than just a compliance requirement. It supports effective risk management, builds trust, and enables responsible innovation. Our template is designed to make this process accessible and empowering, allowing blockchain teams to focus on building transformative solutions without compromising data protection. Protect your users, safeguard your privacy, simplify your DPIA with our template. If you have any questions about this template or about data protection compliance more broadly, feel free to reach out to TechGDPR directly. And thank you for watching.